Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are unpacking a concept that is, I think it's fair to say, the most fundamental currency in human interaction. We usually talk about it in these sort of surface level terms like marketing or soft power.
Right.
But the word is influence. And we're not talking about TikTok algorithms here. We're talking about the mechanics of survival. How do entities, whether it's a global superpower like the United States or just a factory owner in Shenzhen, how do they actually secure their interests when the world is so unpredictable?
It's a huge question. And to get at the answer, we have a really unique pairing of sources today. At first glance, you'd think they shouldn't even be in the same room.
I thought the same thing. I saw the file names and just thought, how do these connect? On one side, we have this sprawling, just incredibly dense historical record of United States involvement in regime change.
Right.
It's a century-long list of coups, invasions, covert ops, all of it.
And on the other...
The other is this granular sociological study. It's titled Study of the Characteristics of Chinese Guanxi and Its Influence on Business Development.
So one is geopolitics on a massive scale. The other is what? Business sociology.
Exactly. But as I was reading them, the parallel became terrifyingly logical. We're looking at two different scales of the exact same problem.
Okay.
The U.S. source gives us the macro view, how a superpower literally shapes the entire global environment to fit its needs.
And the Chinese study gives us the micro view, how individuals use these really specific relationship structures, Guanxi, to navigate a world where they can't rely on institutions.
They're both strategies for mitigating risk.
Precisely. One uses aircraft carriers and the CIA, the other uses banquet tables and tea. But the goal is identical. You're trying to create a circle of safety in a fundamentally unsafe world.
Let's start with the heavy artillery, the macro view. This list of U.S. regime changes, it's exhaustive. It starts way back in 1846 and runs right up to the modern day. And what struck me immediately isn't just the list, it's how the motive evolves over time.
That's the key. You have to look at the timeline. In the mid-19th century, the influence is purely territorial. It's the era of, manifest destiny.
Annexing Texas, invading California.
Exactly. It's a young nation securing its neighborhood.
Securing its borders, basically.
Yeah.
But then, around the turn of the 20th century, the motive shifts. We stop seeing land grabs and we start seeing what look like, corporate security operations.
The banana wars.
Yes.
And this is where it all gets a bit fuzzy, right?
Yeah.
You can't tell where national interest ends and corporate interest begins. You see repeated interventions in Honduras, in Nicaragua.
And the U.S. Marines weren't there to annex these countries.
No, not at all. They were there to ensure stability for American corporations, specifically the United Fruit Company.
Which is just fascinating because it establishes this precedent that instability in another country, especially if that instability threatens profit, that becomes a national security issue for the U.S.
Exactly. And that mindset is absolutely crucial for understanding what happens next.
The Cold War.
The Cold War. This is the big pivot point. After World War II, the motive shifts from protecting fruit companies to containment. The domino theory.
And methods change too, right? We move from overt, sending in the green flag to the covert.
You have to think about the context. In a nuclear age, you can't just invade a Soviet proxy. You'd risk Armageddon. So a hot war becomes almost impossible.
So you have to fight in the shadows.
You do. And this births the golden age of the CIA and the covert.
And this is where the source material gets really dark, but also incredibly instructive on the mechanics of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just, we didn't like this guy, so we removed him. There's a specific playbook.
Let's look at Iran, 1953. Operation Ajax. This is really the prototype.
Right, so you have Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. He's a nationalist. He wants to audit the Anglo-Iranian oil company, and then he nationalizes it.
And the UK and US just panic. They're terrified he'll drift toward the Soviets, so he has to go. But look at how they did it.
It's incredible. Kermit Roosevelt Jr., Teddy's grandson, he flies in with a suitcase of cash. He doesn't bring an army.
No, he hires street gangs to create chaos. He bribes newspaper editors to print propaganda against Mossadegh. He even organizes fake communist protests to scare the religious conservatives.
It's like manufacturing a reality. They created this perception of total anarchy.
Just so they could justify bringing back the Shah as the bringer of order. And it worked. Mossadegh was out, the Shah was back in, Western oil interests were secure.
For a fraction of the cost of a war, they completely altered the trajectory of the Middle East.
Yeah, although we do have to mention the blowback. That operation pretty much set the stage stage for the 1979 revolution.
Which is the inherent risk, isn't it? You secure the short term, but you delegitimize the entire system in the long term.
And you see that pattern again and again. Guatemala in 54, again, protecting United Fruit from land reform, all under the guise of fighting communism.
But the one that really, it stopped me in my tracks, was Indonesia, 1965. The source calls it the Jakarta method.
This is one of the grim turning points of the 20th century. This wasn't just swapping one leader for another. After a failed coup attempt in Indonesia, the military moved to just liquidate the Communist Party, the PKI.
And the U.S. role here wasn't just about funding or something. The source is explicit. It mentions lists.
Yes. The U.S. Embassy compiled lists of thousands of names, suspected communists, so union leaders, teachers, artists, activists, and they handed them over to the Indonesian military.
And as the killings happened.
As the killings happened, U.S. officials would literally check off the names from the list.
That detail, that bureaucratic detail is just chilling. Checking off names like you're taking inventory. While 500,000, maybe 1 million people are being slaughtered, it's the ultimate expression of that macro influence. The superpower creates a binary. You are either with us, an insider, or you are a threat, an outsider. And by helping to eliminate the outsider, they installed the Suharto regime, which of course opened Indonesia up to Western investment.
Strategically, they called it a victory.
A massive victory. But that model, we see it echoed in Chile in 1973 with Pinochet. You had Nixon promising to make the economy scream. It's a form of total war, just fought with economics and intelligence instead of trenches.
So if we synthesize this macro view, influence here is about projecting force outward. It's about shaping the external world into a predictable, safe environment for your interests.
You create a sphere of influence where you set the rules.
Okay, so that's how a superpower deals with uncertainty. It forces the world to comply. But now let's flip the telescope. What if you aren't the CIA? What if you don't have the 7th Fleet and you're operating in an environment that is just as chaotic, say, a developing Chinese economy in the 1920s? How do you survive?
You turn to the micro. You turn to Guanxi.
And this is where we really need to clear up some misconceptions. Because I think most Western business people hear Guanxi and they just think,
Oh, it's networking.
right, it's taking a client to a nice dinner.
And that is a massive oversimplification. The source defines Guanxi not as networking, but as a family-centered preface structure. To even begin to understand it, you have to understand the differential order of Chinese society, which goes all the way back to its agricultural roots.
Right, the paper contrasts this with what it calls Western system trust. In the West, ideally, we trust the system. I don't need to know you personally to do business with you, because if you break the contract, I can sue you. The law is the guarantor.
Exactly. But in a transition economy, or traditionally in rural China, the law is, well, it's distant. Or it's fluid. It might be unenforceable. You can't rely on system trust.
So you have to rely on special trust.
The insiders. Think of it like ripples in a pond. You are at the center. The first closest ring is your immediate family. The next is your extended clan. Then maybe your neighbors.
And as the rings go out, the trust just degrades rapidly.
Yes. Strangers are not just neutral. They are potential threats.
So Guanxi is the mechanism. It's how you pull people from those dangerous outer rings into the safe inner ones.
Correct. It is the deliberate construction of a pseudo-family. If I build Guanxi with you, I am binding you to me with all these reciprocal obligations, all so that I can predict your behavior.
One of the most interesting parts of the study for me was how it analyzed information control. In the West, we always preach transparency, open book management. We think transparency builds trust.
And the study argued that in a Guanxi context, transparency is weakness. Or rather, information is kind of currency. In a low-trust environment, you do not broadcast your plans to the world.
You only share information with your insiders.
Right. So sharing a secret isn't just about logistics. It's a ritual. It's a signal. It says, I'm giving you this piece of intel to prove that you are in my circle.
Because if everyone knows, the information has no value in bonding you together.
Precisely. This is why Westerners often get so frustrated in China. They feel like everything is opaque. They don't realize the opacity is a feature, not a bug. It's designed to distinguish the is from the them.
Let's look at the practical application. The paper breaks this down into business-government relations and business relations.
The government side really connects back to our survival theme.
I see.
In an emerging economy, the government controls all the critical resources. Land permits, import quotas, tax breaks. But the regulations are often vague, or they're always changing. If you just follow the written rules, you might go out of business waiting for a permit.
So you don't call a lawyer?
You call your cousin who works in the bureau. Or you spend years cultivating a relationship with the local official. You aren't just bribing them, you're integrating them into your network of reciprocal obligation. The paper calls it breaking through regulations.
It's a survival mechanism to bypass that institutional inertia. But the paper also highlights a huge risk there, right? The lock-in effect.
Yes. If your whole business model depends on your Guanxi with official X, and then official X gets purged in an anti-corruption drive or just transferred,
Your business effectively vanishes.
you built your house on a single pillar and it's gone.
And then there's the supply chain side, the business-to-business Guanxi. This really challenged my MBA brain, which says you always bid out your contract to get the lowest price.
The transactional model.
Right. But the study says that in the Guanxi model, you might stick with the supplier who's actually more expensive or less efficient, and you do it because they're an insider.
Because when the crisis hits, when raw materials dry up or the market crashes, that lowest bidder transactional vendor is going to walk away.
Of course.
But the Guanxi partner, they'll absorb the loss to keep you alive because your survival is linked to theirs. It's a win-win circle. But it requires what looks like inefficient loyalty in the good times to ensure survival in the bad times.
So let's bring these two massive concepts together. We have the U.S. projecting power outward to create a safe global neighborhood.
And we have the Chinese business owner projecting influence inward to create a safe personal network.
They're both responses to the same fundamental problem. The world is dangerous, and I cannot trust the other.
Exactly. The U.S. didn't trust Mossadegh or the Indonesian communists, so they got rid of him. The Guanxi practitioner doesn't trust the stranger or the legal system, so they build a fortress of relationships.
It's the architecture of us versus them.
And it works. That's the important thing to admit. The U.S. did secure its economic interests for decades, and Guanxi does allow businesses to thrive in volatile markets where a Western company would just fail.
But, and this is the synthesis, I think there's a trap in both.
The trap of blindness.
Let's unpack that. In the U.S. examples, that rigid insider-outsider mentality led to some catastrophic miscalculations. By labeling everything a communist threat, they missed the nuance of local nationalism.
They ended up backing dictators who eventually became huge liabilities. They mistook control for stability.
And in the Guanxi world, the trap is similar. If you only trust your inner circle, you insulate yourself from innovation. You might keep an incompetent supplier just because he's family.
You reject the outsiders who might actually have the better technology or the better idea.
In a closed system, that works fine. But we're living in a globalized, hyper-connected world now.
That is the critical point. As the Chinese market matures and integrates with global standards, that heavy reliance on Guanxi is actually becoming a liability for some firms. It's too slow. It's too exclusive.
And on the other side, the U.S. model of heavy-handed regime change is so much harder to execute in a world of smartphones and instant information.
You can't run a covert op when everyone on the street has a camera in their pocket. The walls are becoming transparent.
So this leaves us with a really provocative thought for everyone listening. We all do this. We might not be overthrowing governments or negotiating factory permits, but we all build these circles.
We curate our information bubbles. We hire people who fit our culture, which, let's be honest, is often code for people who are like us. We trust our insiders.
And the question is, at what point does that circle of safety become a prison? At what point does the effort to keep the outsider at bay actually blind you to the reality of the world?
In the 20th century, survival was about building the strongest walls, whether those were geopolitical alliances or personal networks. But in the 21st century, survival might be about who has the courage to lower the drawbridge and trust the stranger.
That is a lot to think about. We went from the banana plantations of 1900 to the boardrooms of modern China, but the human dynamic hasn't changed a bit.
It never really does. It always comes down to fear and trust.
Thank you for walking us through that.
Yeah.
And to you, our listener, thank you for diving deep. This is a custom-generated deep dive just for you. If this sparked a new question or you want to chase down another rabbit hole, you know where to find us.
Until next time.
Keep your circles open. Goodbye.